Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching American Horror Story, Season 11, Episodes 9 and 10.
Requiem 1981/1987, Part 1 and 2. These two episodes, for me, included the best and worst moments of the season. How similar or?
Well, I started to write notes, and then I ended up with what I liked, what I was indifferent about, and what I didn't like.
Sure.
And so I have a feeling we're probably in the same. But
yeah.
For about the first half of episode 9, I was like, this is interminable.
I swear to God, exactly.
I didn't give a flying fuck about Zachary Quinto, which is an accomplishment.
The words right out of my mouth. Because I literally was like, why am I meant to be feeling sympathy for this asshole all of a sudden? Like, sure, it sucks that he's dying, but like, first of all, he's like a little bit patient zero for this group of people that we've been following. And second of all, he's an asshole.
I thought the lazy Christmas story, like a Christmas Carol metaphor.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I liked it a little better when it was Patrick. When Barb was taking Patrick.
So then there was the Patrick and Gino thing, and it was so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I actually was sad in a way that was borderline offensive to me. Because
in the other part of season or episode 9
with the Patrick and Gino, dying in the hospital, because I was just sort of like, it just felt like American Horror Story hadn't earned it, hadn't earned dabbling in the realities of the AIDS crisis.
Sure.
And it was so sad and depressing. But my biggest issue with this season, because I liked the first couple episodes, I liked the more naturalistic tone. I have no concept what the Mr. Whiteley thing was.
Yeah.
It
was like, that's the thing. It did that classic American Horror Story thing that every single year we're like, maybe this year they finally won't do it. But it was like they just threw in extra ingredients at the end.
It's like they were afraid it wasn't horror story enough, so they had to throw in a killer. And it's like,
or like they were making ceviche and then they put truffle oil on top, and you're like, ugh. Like, what is this truffle oil? This ceviche is delicious. What is this truffle oil doing here?
I wish we cut the Mr. Whiteley story and invested that in actual character drama.
Absolutely.
Because I had a mild fondness for some of the characters. Not enough that other than, because the thing is, it's not so much that I was sad for Patrick, I was sad for the real people that went through this. And I think that's where I was sort of feeling offended by it, because I was sort of like, but American Horror Story, you're schlocky. It didn't, for me, it didn't earn the depths that it plunged to.
I 100% feel like this was not the place to do this. And then more specifically, like, I don't think it gave it enough time. If you want to do a story about the AIDS crisis and do it in a real dramatic way that is like compelling, make another American crime story and center it around Ronald Reagan. And do it for real.
Or apparently Pose.
Or Pose, apparently, yes. We have not watched Pose, but someone in our comments,
one of our comment, Megan,
did say,
she was like, Pose did this so much better. And I just so completely agree, because there was zero tension for me in this entire season.
Yeah.
Because the thing that I thought was happening before it even started, I was like, so this is going to be an AIDS metaphor, I guess. And also, so it wasn't American Horror Story New York City, it was American Horror Story AIDS. That sort of...
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know that the AIDS crisis is a huge part of, or it is tied to New York City. But for me, it's sort of like, it's part of this, but this isn't part of, I don't know.
I take your meaning for sure, because for me, what I was thinking is I was like, ooh, we're gonna, like, obviously it's gonna be gay because it's a Ryan Murphy thing and it's American Horror Story, but it's gonna be
and I liked the initial, just the blatant that we're dealing with gay characters.
And I think what would have been a little more compelling to me is something that's more like the ease of being murdered in the anonymity of a big city. Like, how are you ever going to find, if it had just been Mr. Whiteley, but then if it had only been Mr. Whiteley, or if it had only been the AIDS thing, I think either one of those could have worked, but trying to mash them together, it's like oil and water. Like, they don't fit together.
It felt like, yeah, it would, I think it cheapened what ultimately the season thought it was doing. And there's just, like, the Big Daddy thing, it was downright trite. Like, there's only so many times that leather daddy can stand like this and for it to have any effect. And it was like being clubbed over the head by the end. I actually really enjoyed, and I think when you come to American Horror Story, especially in season 11, you're not there for the writing.
You're not wrong.
Well, when Leslie Grossman showed up, there was a jolt through the episode. And her first of all, that wedding dress was darling. Wasn't it so pretty?
Really cute. Well, you have to imagine they get married in like the
70s,
early mid 70s.
That version of the Christmas Carol worked so much better for me.
Well, because we feel sympathy and empathy for Patrick in a way that I'm just sort of like, Zachary Quinto's getting what he deserves.
Well, Gino challenged me. I found him to be somewhat unlikable in a way that's sort of interesting. Not everybody has to be quote unquote likable. I think that Joe Mantello was good.
He did a great job.
Even though Gino challenged me, I was able to stand. I liked him. I don't know. It got real pretentious. I think, and in a way that like the whole as a whole, I just don't think it works. I'm so curious what someone would think if someone sat down and watched this without any prior relationship.
I mean, I think if I had no relationship with American Horror Story and I watched this, I would never watch American Horror Story again. It's just sloppy. And it doesn't fit together. And it's the thing that we said before where it's like the sum is less. The whole is less than the sum of its parts.
It was also so weird in the last either the last two or the last episode for them to just be saying AIDS, because it was and yes, I know we didn't know what it was at first,
and there was a time jump, but that's
we spent so much time with this weird ambiguous and then they're like, yeah, it was AIDS, and I was like, oh.
I thought we were gonna do kind of like an Uncanny Valley type of thing where it was like, so it's still similar, and that is the large
because was I expecting Hollywood? Like the end of Ryan Murphy's Hollywood where they were going to rewrite history or something? I don't know.
Maybe. Weirdly, the whole metaphor worked the best for me in episode 10. Because if I'm being honest, episode 10 was a pretty beautiful episode of television. I liked it
Carver wrote
quite a lot.
Charlie Carver wrote it with someone else. He did double duty. And
he's been a writer on a lot of them.
The ones that I liked, I noticed.
So that's the thing is like, I largely liked the metaphor the best in the 10th episode. And then, but the issue is by that point, it stopped being a metaphor. We knew what it was already. And so it was just being used as like a framing device, which I do appreciate. But then it's the same thing that you keep saying where it's like, I take episode 10 and then I look at the rest of the series through the lens of episode 10, which was beautifully done and really used the metaphorical framing device well. And also, I'm like, how come the rest of
minutes. It's the shortest episode in the series.
Yeah.
I don't think that is inherently a bad thing. I think it's also slightly telling that this entire season was a bit of a afterthought. I don't know.
Radioactive by Kraftwerk is only so long. So
but now you've said it.
It was so good, though. I don't know. I was really, really impressed by episode 10. And, you know, the thing that you said about Gino not being really likable, I totally agree with that. And so, in that sense, his, like, punishment, quote unquote, is that he kind of outlived everybody. He's just there witnessing all of these funerals. And in that punishment kind of fits the crime of being like a little terrible, except for he was also the only one ringing the bell the whole time.
I was gonna say out of clarity, it's not that he's terrible, because I think in the grand scheme of things, he was morally Correct. I think he
100%.
was unreasonable.
Yeah.
I think that he refused to understand he was ahead of his time, or
Yeah.
he was fighting the good fight in a way that was stressful.
I think it suits his character to have to be the one bearing all of this at the end because
And I wish it was
he tried
about
so
that.
hard. Yeah.
I wish that it had focused on, because when I wrote down what I liked, so I really liked Charlie Carver and Billie Lourd.
Yeah.
Her absence for me was felt. I can hear rebuttals to what I'm saying, because I was going to say her arc felt sad and incomplete. And I understand that goes hand in hand with dying young and the AIDS crisis and all that. But it's also, this is relatively well-worn territory. So to be tackling it, you need to be bringing something to it. You need to be saying something. And I ultimately found they weren't saying anything. Like, I felt like this was a history it was a history lesson for people who weren't at school this day. Like, who this was for, I don't think is watching this show.
Well, that for sure. That absolutely.
So I really like Charlie and Billie Lourd. I love that thing when people are legends and you're just like, oh, because they're a legend. Because the 2 times Patti Lupone was on screen.
Yeah.
Dynamite. She was so good. And I was sort of like, oh man, what a weird character that was kind of on this show.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm totally on your team. And also, like,
her scene with Charlie Carver where she was like, you're too young to be.
Yeah.
I forgot what she said. She was like, you're too young to be so worried about not dying.
Yeah.
And I was just like, there was those moments where I was like, this is why I keep watching it. It's because there are these nuggets with.
Here's the thing about those nuggets is I don't think they're through any maneuvering of the production. I think they are actor-based only.
I mentioned this several times, but I need to learn the name of it. That AI generated script. That they made a computer write a script and it was nonsense, and then actors had to interpret it. Sunspot or something.
It was something like that. I'm gonna Sunspring.
It was a film project where they had a computer write AI script, and it was nonsense. And then the actors came in and interpreted it and somehow made it make sense to
a degree. But that is the thing where it's like all of these actors that are so great on American Horror Story, like their characters are so great. It's because those actors are great. It's not because
Patti Hay and she spun gold.
It's not because they're getting these like beautiful words.
I really liked Sandra Bernhard, and then she was just gone.
Not in these episodes. So weird.
What happened to her story?
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about Charlie Carver because I think he did such an exceptional job with this character who like doesn't need to be anything besides like a cute boy. And he really did something with the character, I think, to the point where like I was very moved when he got to Hannah's apartment and he was like, I'm friends with the woman in 6B. Can I come in? And like her body is being wheeled out like right next to him. And he has just come from Theo's funeral and then now she's dead as well. And I mean, it's just horrible. And he like is listening to her recordings and he realizes that it's like sort of his fault she got it because she wanted to have a baby and he like offered. And I mean, what are you gonna do?
But that to me is so interesting that these women, these cis straight women, were affected by it.
Yeah.
In ways that I wish the show was. Not that the show was about that, but it's like what we got of their relationship was what the actors gave us alone. And the same with Russell Tovey and Leslie Grossman, where it was just sort of like, I wish that this was about Charlie and Hannah and Theo, or I wish this was about Patrick and Gino, or Patrick and Gino and Barbara, or I wish this was like, or
even the 6 of them. But then it's like that classic American Horror Story thing. We had to throw in like a weird Jeffrey Dahmer murderer, and then we had to throw in like a sadistic Zachary Quinto.
Because I have, after Sandra Bernhard, what I liked, I really liked Patrick and the police, and then his relationship with Barbara, with Leslie Grossman. I really liked that. Whereas in my medium, I had Patrick and Gino.
Yeah.
I was medium. Some of it I thought was good. Some of it I was sort of like, meh.
Yeah, they just, in my opinion, they really didn't earn this, like, love for the ages, nursing each other to death relationship.
We needed to focus more on them if we were gonna, because like, and so the other thing,
there was no proof the whole time that they even liked each other. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then we have their meet cute, which I was like really sort of electrified by
Me too.
that.
I agree. Yeah.
And I was like, man, I would have liked to have watched this.
Yeah.
In my medium, I have the weird underground club of artists. I mean, the two or three times
only, like,
it was like the 2 or 3 times we went there, I thought it was interesting, but ultimately, like, Hale Appleman and
meaningless. Like
quite literally, because they didn't even use his head in the end or whatever part. And then the bathhouse, I mean, I enjoyed it from the atmosphere, but it was superficial for me in a way. And then why was one episode about psychics? Like, I don't know, that didn't work for me in the grand scheme of things, even though I found that particular episode to be relatively compelling. I don't think it had any real resonance. And then what I didn't like, I just basically wrote Mr. Whiteley, Zachary Quinto, Dennis O'Hare, and Fire Island.
Bonkers that Dennis O'Hare is in the bottom for me as well of this show. What a useless use of him. Like, absolutely of no consequence. And like, then we didn't even stick with his weird abiding love for Gino. So bizarre.
It didn't work for me.
Yeah. I will say again, I think episode 10 was sort of beautiful.
Because I was furious. I was ready to throw in the towel. And then
but like
the end of episode 9 and episode 10, I was like, are you really gonna make me come in and actually discuss this? You're really gonna make me actually,
God damn it.
And I can't decide if that's worse.
Yeah.
Like, would I rather throw the baby out with the bathwater? Or like, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And the thing is, I think more often than not, I think American Horror Story is more miss than hit. However,
the hits are so good.
And when they're not, they're interesting.
Yeah.
I liked Red Tide.
Yeah.
I liked, and the thing is, like, Death Valley was bad, but it was funny.
It was bad, but it was funny and it was weird.
Yeah.
Which is, I'll allow that. But this is, so I like, this I don't even think is like the sloppiest season or the season I had the hardest time watching or anything like that, but I am the most baffled by this season that I have been at any season I've watched all the way through.
I think it's because so much of it was so grounded that the
like elevated stuff sticks out like a sore thumb.
Well, I think when things are campy and inconsistent, it feels that checks.
Yeah.
Where when things are level and inconsistent, like, with the boring and inconsistent, how dare you?
Yeah.
Like, so, I really think if they either needed to mesh these stories together more significantly, because it basically was one story, then a second story, then back to the first story.
Yeah.
So they either needed to weave them together better or pick one and just do more character work. Like, just sort of, because I mentioned it, but it's like, why are we giving Barbara a dog in one episode to have that not come to anything?
And then where did that dog go? Because Gino and Patrick didn't take it. So is that dog just wandering around now with a taste for flesh or something? Like,
but
season 12!
Why give us that and then do nothing with it?
I agree completely.
And I can't say it was a dismal failure. I guess is what I would say is it didn't work.
I think for me,
that's not this.
For me, it failed at its own premise. Like, it was really trying to say something, and I don't think it succeeded with what it was trying to do at all. I just was sort of like,
I was like, oh, I just wish I had watched Angels in America or The Normal Heart or
Angels in America is so good.
Do you know what I mean? I was
so
just
good.
sort of like, I mean, because I can just put on a record of Patti Lupone singing standards.
Yeah. Well, and also it's like, I feel like I can already feel like getting burned at the stake for this, but like, and I also haven't seen it in ages, but like, what I remember of the movie Philadelphia is that it's actually quite good, and it does the AIDS story in a like meaningful and interesting way, and like, obviously Tom Hanks is straight, and he's like, if that movie came out today, I wouldn't have, been playing the part or whatever, but I just feel like by dividing their attentions and not focusing completely on it, because it could have been the leather daddy metaphor and then finally we shift into the Mr. Whiteley thing and the, like, gay boy zombie thing.
The deer
and
was
the boys
so
with
heavy,
the antlers were here
so
again today.
heavy-handed.
I don't know.
Oh, that blonde guy.
He is handsome.
I still maintain Stranger by the Lake did it better, and there's unsimulated sex in it. So that's all I'm gonna
Congratulations.
say. It's a French movie, I think.
Mm.
Did I tell you about it?
You have.
They
told me
claim
about
it's not about AIDS.
It's about it.
Basically, in case you don't know, it's a good film. It's a Ford film about a cruising place. It's like a lake where gay guys go to hook up, and a guy meets a guy that he is like falls in love with, and then sees him kill somebody. But he still keeps
seeing him. Interesting. Yeah. No.
Right.
Interesting.
And it basically ends with the guy chasing him, claiming that he needs to explain.
Yeah.
And it ends. Spoilers. It ends with the guy going to him, but then you don't know.
Yeah, I just think there was a better way. There just was a better way to do it.
Oh yeah!
I don't know. I just think there was a better. I think, like, I do think there was still a way to do it with all the pieces that they had. They just didn't, like you said, they didn't mesh the stories well enough.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, that was American Horror Story, New York City.
Yep. We'll be back next year to eat the same amount.
I have no idea. So let us know if you enjoyed it. If you didn't, do you want us to keep covering American Horror Story? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. He's going to get sucked right back in.
I mean, what do you want me to do? Like, show up and be like, no, it's just going to suck anyway. Like.
I mean.
Bye.
Bye.